The year the sun forgot us, a child's tale of the long winter. 536 CE, you've heard the sagas, how Odin gave an eye for wisdom, how Thor fought the frost giants, how Ragnarok will come with fire and ice. But no skald ever sang of the year the sun turned blue and never came back. I was 9 winters old when the sky broke. It began in the spring when the fjords should have thawed and the birch trees should have budded. Instead, frost clung to the ground like a curse. My father said it was strange, but not impossible. Some years were colder than others. My mother just pulled her shawl tighter and kept stirring the stew. Then came the day without shadows. I remember it clearly. I was chasing our goat, Skari, near the edge of the pine forest. The air was still, the birds silent. When I looked up, the sun wasn't yellow or gold. It was blue, a cold, ghostly disk floating in a sky the color of wet ash. I held up my hand. No shadow fell beneath it. None of us cast shadows that day. The village gathered in the long hall that evening, faces grim in the firelight. Old Gunnar, who'd fought beside King Hrothgar's grandson, muttered about the Femble winter, the great winter that comes before the end of all things. 3 winters without summer, he said, voice trembling. Then the wolf eats the sun. Shut your mouth, Gunnar, my father snapped, but his knuckles were white around his axe. He didn't believe in omens. He believed in barley, in sheep, in the strength of a man's arm. But even he couldn't plant seeds in frozen earth. By midsummer, the fjord froze. Not the edges, the whole thing. Ice thick enough to walk across, though no one dared. The fish stopped biting. The reindeer vanished into the high mountains. We butchered the weakest sheep first, then the goats, then the old Mare that pulled our cart. My little brother Einar cried when they took his lamb. Mother didn't scold him. She just held him tighter and gave him her share of broth. We burned pine logs day and night, but the cold seeped into our bones like a sickness. Even the hearth fire seemed dimmer, as if the flames themselves were afraid of the sky. One morning I found my mother kneeling by the well, her breath fogging an air that should have been warm. She was whispering to the water, not a prayer to Freya, but a plea. Please, she said, just one more harvest, just enough to see them grow. I didn't tell anyone I'd heard her. Some truths are too heavy for children to carry. The chieftain, my uncle Rurik, called the clan to the sacred bog. He stood at the edge, his face carved from stone, and threw in his golden arm ring, the one his father won in battle against the sphere. Others followed, brooches, swords, even a child's carved horse, offerings to the gods begging them to lift the curse. But the sky didn't change. By autumn, hunger had teeth. 2 families left for the south, toward the lands of the Franks. We never saw them again. Some said they starved on the road. Others claimed they were taken by wolves or worse, by men who'd turned to darker things to survive. Then the coughing started. It began with old Hilda, who'd nursed half the village through fevers. She woke one night gasping, her skin burning, her throat raw. 3 days later, she was buried beneath a cairn of stones. Then came the miller's son, then my cousin Brinja. We stopped gathering in the long hall. We left food at each other's doors and backed away before the other could open it. Grief became a luxury we couldn't afford. Winter came early, and it didn't leave. Snow fell in July. The barley rotted in the fields before it could sprout. My father stopped speaking. He'd sit by the window, staring at the blue sun like it owed him an answer. One night I heard him and Mother arguing in hushed tones. "We should go to the coast," he said. "The traders say the darkness is lighter in the south." "And leave our dead behind?" she whispered. "Leave our home to rot? We have no home if we starve." I pulled my blanket over my head and pretended not to hear. But I knew we were already ghosts in our own village. Then, in the deepest part of the second winter, when even the wolves had gone silent, a ship appeared on the frozen fjord. Not a dragon-prowed longship, but a trader's vessel from the Frankish lands, its hull scarred by ice and storm. The captain, a man with a beard streaked gray and eyes that had seen too much, brought news. The darkness was lifting in the south. Crops were growing again in Gaul. In Sicily, they said the sun shone nearly as bright as before. My uncle Rurik offered him half our remaining silver for passage. The captain took it and 6 children, not the strongest, not the eldest, the youngest, the ones with the most life left to live. I wasn't chosen. I was 12 now, too old, too useful. But Einar was 8, small, quick, full of laughter, even now. Mother didn't cry when they took him. She braided his hair that morning, tied it with a strip of red wool, the last dye we had. She pressed a small amber bear into his hand, carved by my grandfather. "Remember us," she whispered. Father stood at the shore as the ship pulled away, its sails tattered but full. I stood beside him, my hand in his. His palm was rough, cold, trembling. "He'll be safe," I said, though I didn't know if it was true. "He'd be safer if we were with him," Father replied. "But the world doesn't care what's fair." We never saw Einar again. But the darkness did lift, not all at once, not with fanfare, but slowly like a wound healing. One morning in the 3rd spring, I woke to birdsong. Real birdsong, not the desperate call of crows, but the trill of larks. I ran outside. The sun was yellow. Not blue, not gray. Golden, warm, casting long shadows across the frost-melted earth. I fell to my knees and wept, the village rebuilt. Not as it was too many graves, too many empty houses, but it lived. My father planted barley again. My mother brewed ale from the first decent harvest. We told stories of the long winter so the children would never forget. Years later, I heard a skald in a southern hall sing of a time when the sun hid its face and the world held its breath. He called it the worst year to be alive. He was right. But he didn't sing of the girl who watched her brother sail into the fog, hoping for a son she'd never see again. He didn't sing of the mothers who gave their last bread to their children. He didn't sing of the quiet courage it took to plant seeds in frozen ground, just in case the light ever returned. But I remember, and as long as I draw breath, I will tell the truth. The darkest winters end. Not because the gods are kind, but because we refuse to let the fire go out.